911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hey everybody, happy Saturday. How are you guys all doing? I'm sure everybody is super busy with tomorrow being Easter. I thought about whether or not to do a live tonight or not, but I thought I'm just going to go ahead and do it because we had some interesting stuff come out this week about Richard Allen, and I thought we should talk about it for the Delphi case. So I hope everybody's doing well. Hold on a second. My camera is acting weird. I've had a crazy busy day. I do have a surprise. I thought I was going to have two surprises, but one of them is not feeling well. So that surprise is going to be another day. But I do have Deb with me backstage, Deb from True Crime Notebook, and she's going to be on the show with me tonight, and I'm so excited to have her. So everybody, please welcome Deb with True Crime Notebook.
Hey.
Hi, my dear.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I got a busy day too.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I've been running around like I had my youngest grandson overnight. And so I had him until about 1 o'clock, and I had all this stuff to do before tonight, and it's just been crazy.
I know. I'm getting ready for Easter celebration. We have a big dinner here, and then both of my grandkids had soccer games today.
Mm-hmm.
My grandson decided after we drove all the way over there that he was not going to play. He's in kindergarten, and he actually has talent. My granddaughter, who doesn't even know why she's on the field, but she's just happy to be there.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
She played.
My little one, he's 5 and he won't be in kindergarten until the fall, but he starts soccer next week. He
Oh,
is
yeah.
super, super excited about it. And his
Aw.
oldest brother, my 19-year-old, he played soccer from the time he was 4
Mhm.
all through high school.
Yeah.
And so he's an avid soccer guy. So
Awesome. I love that.
this ought to be interesting to see, because I remember when my oldest one started at the age of 4, and around this age, he used to sit down on the soccer field and just look up at the clouds in the middle of the game.
I know. Today, when my granddaughter was, running around, she had her hair in braids and she was swinging them around and just being so silly on the field. I looked at my daughter and I said, don't judge her, because you used to do cartwheels in the back and you used to, pick up the little dandelions and blow them. And she played soccer in college. So
Oh, it's
my
so
son
funny because he wanted to be,
did too.
when he first started, he was like, I want to be a goalie. I want to be the goalie. Well, he found out that with that age group, it's pretty boring.
Yeah.
So that's why he was sitting and looking at the clouds, because nothing was ever happening at the goal. It was all these, they're this little bunches and they run around,
Oh yeah. We call
Gosh.
that herd. We call it herd ball.
Yes, exactly. But it's still fun, and it's so cool to see him interacting with other kids and having a good time. I love it. So I'm looking forward to it.
I was so excited that they were going to play, because both my kids played in college, and my son just finished his college career this fall in soccer. He's gone on to do his master's now, but so I was really missing it. So it's fun to go on, start at the beginning and watch him again.
There you go. It's awesome. So we got Westeros Will here tonight. Hey, Will,
Hey.
how are you? Good to see
Hi,
you. Hi, Rhonda. How are you? Hey, Sharon. Good to see you. Hi, Dave. How are you? Hey, Sierra. Good to see you too. My Siri still thinks I'm talking to her. Every once in a while, she just jumps up and says, "What? What did you say to me?" So, yeah, we were supposed to have Aspen on with us tonight, but he's not feeling well, so he'll be on again. I'm going to miss him. I was looking forward to having both of you guys.
I know. I was looking forward to it too.
He's always so much fun.
Buddy.
I know. He's so fun. He's like a hoot. Makes me laugh.
He's such a good person.
He is. He's such he's so down to earth, and he's so compassionate and kind. It's just unbelievable. It's amazing when you find people like you and him online.
Aww, thank you.
It's true. I'm serious. Oh my gosh. Did I take a beating after my last live stream? Gee Louise. People were coming at me with everything.
Why?
And the kitchen sink. I don't know. I guess because they thought I was between that and between OJ and between putting out my short on Richard Allen and the news. My Richard Allen one, I can't believe all the people that were screaming at me and saying that I was defending him and, he doesn't deserve anything. And I'm like, where do these people come from? I'm like, seriously, if these are the people that vote in this country, it's scary because I'm serious. If you don't understand the justice system and how it works in this country, first of all, I wasn't happy when they sent him away to a prison. I was like, that's not a good thing, first of all, to happen. He doesn't belong in a prison. He hasn't been accused. I mean, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet. No matter how we may feel about him, it's not about how we feel, it's the law. And so, I wasn't defending him. I was merely stating what his attorneys have said in their motion as to his conditions. And if those conditions are true, he deserves every affordable care under the Constitution, and that's not what he's getting.
And the reason he deserves that is not because he's a great person, because I've totally believe that he's guilty, in my opinion.
So do I. So do I.
However, we want that trial to go perfectly.
Yep.
We don't want him to be able to come back and, or a mistrial to be declared, or him to even get some long drawn out, time because he's declared incompetent.
Or him to get sick and
Mhm.
and frail as he looks now and die before he has
Right.
a chance to be go through the process.
Exactly.
I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen. And I was a little concerned at his last court appearance because I could tell how much he'd lost, how much weight he'd lost. I was floored when I saw this picture of him. I mean, the newest picture that's out there, this one is just, to me, that's just unbelievable to me.
Yeah. And, I realize he drank a lot of beer, and so he's not drinking that now.
Right.
According to the lifestyle we've heard about. And, that'll take a bunch of pounds off of you. But I've also heard through the grapevine of people who have been incarcerated in that jail or prison and know how it works. And they've talked to people that they're yelling things at him all night to keep him awake. They're sending him messages and yelling down the hall that they've spit and urinated into his food. And so he's probably not eating everything they give him. If it were me, I think about it. If it were me, I would not. I'd be like skipping the mashed potatoes and the macaroni and cheese. And I would be eating whatever I could wash off in the sink.
I mean, he's, yeah. And it's like I've tried to tell people that have been going about this and yelling at me or whatever. I'm like, he has rights under the Constitution. He has not been convicted of anything. He's accused and he's been arrested. That's it. He belongs in a county jail waiting to have his day in court. Now, yes, he waived his right to a speedy trial. So he has to take some of that responsibility as to why he hasn't yet been in court. However, with the case that's up against him, we can all understand why he would have done that, because the amount of discovery is unbelievable. We've talked about it in this case.
Yeah.
So you've got to give his attorneys a chance to go through all of that and figure out how they're going to defend him against all of the mountain of evidence,
Right.
So I just, like I said, all these people that are like, Libby and Abby are the ones that deserve all of the, of course they do. I'm not here to say, put him on some sort of a pedestal. I'm not. It's just, if it was you or me, if we'd have been arrested for this crime and put in jail, I wouldn't want to be treated that way. None of us would.
No.
Because that's not how it's supposed to work. So and I've thought a lot about it. It's why I made the title to tonight's live. Is he truly sick, or is this a defense strategy that they're trying to drum up some stuff starting now, showing how he looks? Because I was very concerned when I heard about the schizophrenia and the delusions. And that made me very concerned.
I'm not so concerned that he has schizophrenia, because that's usually something that occurs in your early or in your mid to late 20s. Not that there isn't onset schizophrenia, there is, but it's very rare.
Right.
But I did think that it's possible he could be.
We don't know if he had it in the past. We
don't
know.
We don't.
Mental health. We heard he was sent to a mental hospital. Remember, after the murders, that was a rumor. So we really
we don't know. We don't know his medical past. That's true. I was more concerned that it might be psychosis, because they do share some similarities, the delusions and hallucinations, and being put into a situation like that where you're in,
isolation.
by yourself, isolation for that long period of time, definitely within a very short period of time, you could be experiencing psychosis,
Right.
and certainly severe depression, which is what I tend to feel this might be.
Oh, I'm sure it is. And the longer it
Yeah.
goes on, the worse it's going to be. And especially if he's not being allowed to physically see his wife, his mother, his family.
I found it interesting that it didn't necessarily say he wasn't being allowed, just said he hadn't. I forget how it was worded exactly. You might remember, but
Yeah, I thought it for surely said that he was not being allowed to see them in person.
I don't think it
He's
said
allowed to talk
allowed.
to, yeah, I mean, he's allowed, and they said it's because of the type of security that he is under at this prison. That's why they were using that excuse. But I'm like, good Lord,
Yeah.
5 months he's gone without having
Right.
visits from his family.
I wasn't sure if he wasn't being allowed or if they just aren't visiting. I couldn't tell that from how it was worded, but either way, I mean, that's pretty sad. Not that I feel sorry for him in the least. I don't.
No.
Yeah, but as far as he does have rights, and I don't think that he should be given any, rights above and beyond what every other prisoner gets. I think that he should be given the same rights as
I
every
think his
prisoner.
rights are afforded to him under the Constitution of being an arrested individual who has not yet been to court. That's why he belongs in a county jail.
That is the defining part of it.
Yes.
Is that he has not been convicted yet.
No,
we haven't even gotten
there's
to
no
court
conviction on this man. And so for right now, he's innocent, no matter what we all think, what we all believe about him. And I even think I'm absolutely positive that's why Nick McClellan agreed with everything that they said in the motion and said, I'm not going to argue this. Move him. Nick knows he's a person of the court. So he understands. And this is, it's kind of like, what was coming to my mind when I was thinking about all of this when it first happened, and then when everybody started coming at me in comments and emails. I think it was, we don't want to be one of those countries that just steal people off the street and put them in jail or in prison and throw away the key. That's not the kind of country we live in, and I don't want to live in that kind of country.
Exactly.
Exactly. No, Brian has not been convicted either, Melissa. So, it's like
I did do a little research, and the things that were noted by his attorneys, the size of the cell is very standard. As a matter of fact, he's in a 6x10 cell, and an average jail cell in prison is 6x8 shared by 2 people. So I don't think that's an issue at all. And then the reason they're keeping him, on a mattress on the floor is because they don't want to give him any type of hardware, hard goods as they're called, bed frame, etc., box springs that he could do harm to himself with. So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And as far as clothing, he's issued twice a week full clothing, including underwear, etc. And so I don't know what's going on there. Now, they are responsible for washing on that off day because you've got 2 sets, right? And it lasts you a week. And then the next week you get 2 new sets. So on the off days, he's responsible for washing out his own clothing and underwear and hanging to dry. And I got to thinking maybe that t-shirt's dingy because maybe that's the quality of the water there.
Well, it could be that. There could be so many different things. I mean, he looks a mess. I don't know if that was like I said, on purpose to make him look that way, or if this is exactly how the attorneys have found him, because it's even made it seemed like they've had trouble connecting with him. And it's, it's going to be that way because of where he's at. It's Westerville, right? He's in Westerville?
Westville.
Westville. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Now,
he's
not
in
to be confused.
he's in
Not to be
Westville. Do you know
confused.
how far that is from where his attorneys are?
About an hour and 10 minutes.
So it's not a huge amount of time away.
No, for one of them, it's about an hour and 10 minutes. It might be a little bit more for the attorney that's down in the Greenfield area, not Rosie.
Rosie's in Franklin, right?
No, he's closer. Oh my gosh, why can I not think of the other one?
I was thinking one of them was in Franklin.
What's the other? Yeah, they are. What's the
or
other?
Frankfurt?
Attorney?
I meant not Franklin. Frankfurt.
No, he's in Franklin. I can't think of his name. What's the other attorney? There's
hold
Rosie.
on a second.
Hold on. A mental block.
I should have had my case pulled up. I don't know why I didn't. I always have it up.
Help us out, chat. So start with the B. I'm having a total
I can't think of anything right now. It's like my brain is just mush.
Baldwin. It does start with the
Baldwin.
B.
Baldwin.
Thank
Right.
you.
Baldwin.
Rescue all the dogs. Yeah. Baldwin is the one that lives in the Franklin area. And so it's a little bit further for him.
What the heck? I'm trying to find his case. There it is. I'm like, where did it go? He's usually right up at the top.
Are you familiar with Noe, Kagan Klein's cellmate, or not cellmate, jailmate? Noe
the name. I've heard of the name.
And speaking with him, I asked him, what do you think about this? That, Carroll County versus where he is right now. And he said that the county jail is absolutely not equipped. And understand he's been in jail, right? Been in prison. A county jail is absolutely not equipped to handle someone that needs this type of protection. So that's why they sent him there, and that's why he's there. And so I don't necessarily know that they should move him, but I think that they should take whatever services he needs, and they need to wrap those around him there in that facility.
Right. And I don't see, it just didn't make sense to me as to why they couldn't at the state level being in prison, an actual prison versus a county jail. I get if you're in a county jail, it's small, they don't have enough staff or whatever the problem may be. But the other thing to me is that if he was in a smaller county jail, whether it be Cass or wherever they were thinking of putting him, wasn't it Cass that they asked for, I think?
Yeah.
So, what was my train of thought? Him being in the smaller facility, I think they would be able to have closer eyes on him, and he would have the availability to services for mental health, maybe a little bit better access than he would in this big prison where they have to go get somebody that's qualified to treat him that comes into the prison.
Oh, they already have services in the prison. They already have services available there for psychological care. In the county jail, the problem would be that I think manpower, the surveillance possibilities, and, just keeping him isolated. I just, just speaking to Noe, he's like, there's no way they could protect him in that county jail. But again, I totally believe they need to wrap those services around him and get him whatever care he needs. And get, paperwork to him, get his lawyers in there with him, let them discuss what their case is going to be. Like, can't keep the paperwork from him forever.
I think it's kind of crazy that they sent him 1,000 pages to read on the 24th of March, and those still have not been given to him. And here we are going to be, the 10th of April come Monday, and they still haven't given him those 1,000 pages, that is problematic. Those are things that are going to be appealable for him on appeal. If this man gets convicted, these are the kinds of things that will come up of how he was treated, and in the, you know, in the beginning, before he was ever adjudicated in court. That just blows my mind.
Well, you know, the thing is too, it is a law or a rule there that if you're under a suicide watch or anything like that, you cannot have paper because they say you can cut yourself. But I don't understand why they can't have him in a room with a guard on it.
Exactly.
Attending.
And he also has a tablet of some sort. Why don't they just give him download it to the tablet so that he can look at them, you know, digitally? There's got to be a way for him. You know, that's just insane. I don't think he's going to cooperate, you guys. This guy is claiming he's innocent. He's not going to cooperate with law enforcement. They're not going to break him. I mean, if that's what they're trying to do, I don't know. I just don't see him confessing to this crime. He would have done it either. He would have done it already.
Right.
In this past 5 months.
Yeah.
So I don't
agree.
I don't think that's what's happening. I mean, I don't think that's what he's going to be doing as far as cooperating. He's not going to sit down with law enforcement and talk to them about anything. I just, at this point in time, especially if he's guilty, as I believe he is, he's not going to talk to them.
No, because, you know, he's not dumb.
He's not dumb. And his attorneys have already told him to be quiet.
Right.
I can tell you that. If they haven't said anything else, the attorneys have said to him, you be quiet.
Right.
Don't you talk, not just to them, but cellmates, guards. You're quiet. You don't talk about this case with anyone but us.
Right. It's crazy. And I think that my mind also goes to the side that it could be they took this picture and then said, oh, look at this picture. We could utilize this. You know, I hate to think that happened, but I've got to look at that side and think about that side too. You know, we could utilize this to gain sympathy, public sympathy for him. Because obviously the public, they're going to be jurors, and to gain sympathy from the courts for, you know, any type of bail or whatever that he's asking for. And also to possibly, you know, get a, gosh, I can't even think today, not, you know, not able to stand trial because of incompetency. And
that's what I'm worried about at this point. If this man, if they're able to stand up at that bail hearing and tell Francis Gull, the judge, that he is experiencing schizophrenic episodes and he's experiencing delusions and is not coherent, that is going to be a big thing where they will I mean, I can't even imagine how they would not go out and immediately have him evaluated to see if he is fit to stand trial at this point.
They'll have to, because of all this coming out, they'll have to have him evaluated. So yeah, if he's declared incompetent to stand trial, then he will go into treatment until he is competent to stand trial. But what happens there is that it stretches it out to a period of time where the public will cool down over the outrage of this, and that's to his advantage.
For sure, because what comes to mind is the what's her name that was kidnapped? Smart, not Kristen, but the other Smart. What's her name? Crap. She was kidnapped and held.
The girl in Utah?
Yes.
Yeah. I know you're talking about.
Yeah, she was kidnapped and held for months, and when that all came about. They found her, they arrested him and his wife. Both of them were found incompetent to stand trial. They had to go through treatment and all kinds of stuff before they could actually have them stand trial. Thank you, Elizabeth. I feel so bad that I couldn't remember her name. Elizabeth Smart.
I couldn't either.
What an amazing individual she's turned out to be.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Strong girl, strong
That's
person.
probably what
to deal
kept her going and kept
with
her alive, right?
Oh yeah, man. But so yeah, they had to do those kinds of things with both of those defendants. And as I remember, it took a long time before they actually came to trial. So you are absolutely right, because it will benefit him, because the longer it takes for him to sit in jail and get to court, more people will, like you said, kind of calm down. I mean, I don't really look for the big Delphi community to calm down much, but you know what I mean? It's
right.
It's even to a point now, I think, with Delphi, where I'm hearing people, creators and stuff, saying there's not much to talk about with Delphi. So, you don't want to just keep hounding over the same stuff over and over and over again. But yet there is a fever pitch in the Delphi community that wants to talk about Delphi all the time. As we as creators know, we get many more views and, whatever comments and whatever, whenever Delphi is mentioned.
Yeah. And it's because so many people, not just in the Delphi area, but, the people that watch you, the people that watch me, etc., they're vested. They're invested in this because they've given their hearts and their time trying to help solve this, horrible crime against these two little girls. And they want to see it played out and finished, and they want to see justice served. And that's why people get so emotional and come at you as well, is because they're so in it, and everyone thinks their POI is the person, even with in the face of facts and seeing the person arrested, people are still stuck on other people.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's definitely true.
Right.
We could have a whole night a discussion and talk about that.
I got really shocked when I heard that there are women calling the jail pretending to be his wife to try to get to talk to him.
Richard?
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. Did you see that Alec Murdaugh is getting love letters in prison? He's already got women sending him love letters in prison. This is a whole thing. I didn't even realize.
Hybristophilia.
Yeah. Hoosier told me that it's a whole diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, because my first question is, what is wrong with these women? What the heck's wrong with these women?
Yeah.
And I'm
it's
sure
in that whole category of philias, pedophilia, etc. It's hybristophilia, and they get something emotionally from being involved with these types of men. They feel powerful, they feel like they're important, they might gain fame from it. It's crazy.
Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me, because I wouldn't at all be surprised if Brian Koberger is getting letters and all of that. So
yeah, Ray, that is correct. I am not one of those women.
Come on now, Ray. Come on now, Ray. Let's be nice.
Never, ever, ever. He knows. He knows.
Oh, Lord.
He's a funny guy, that Ray.
Yeah, he is. He is. We enjoy him.
Yep.
But yeah, I just, I don't know what to think of a lot of it. I mean, the fact that they brought up the fact that he was having to pay for the chirping device. Everybody has to pay for a chirping device. If you're, that he doesn't get, I don't think that should be any different than anybody else.
No.
And I feel bad that his family has to pay that stuff, but that's when you're in jail, that's what happens. I mean,
right.
That's what happens.
Yeah, that's what happens. Someone has to put money on your books to go, and buy candy and ho-hos and chirping and all of that.
And it's, I've tried to say this. I know, my daughter, when she and I have had our live streams together, we've tried to talk about it a lot and just put it out there that in the last 10 to 15 years, for sure, in whatever high profile case they're convicted before they ever go to court in the media and by people. And, and like I said before, and you've said before, that's how we feel, but how we feel doesn't matter. The law matters.
Right.
Even Doug Carter stood up and told everybody that it's not about what we feel or what we think. It's about what we know and what we can prove.
Yeah.
And so, he's innocent until proven guilty, even if he's sitting in jail. And there's a mindset in this country that if you're arrested, you're guilty. And that's not always true.
Right.
We have to remember that as we're covering these cases, no matter how painful it is to say it, because I believe he's guilty as sin. I mean, that's just me from everything I know. I mean, he put himself there. There's no way he could not have been there when the girls were on that bridge.
He put himself there, and he described what bridge guy was wearing as what he was wearing.
Exactly.
And his wife confirmed to law enforcement that he does have a blue Carhartt jacket, still has it, had it back then.
Yes. Plus he kept the gun. He's got, God knows what else he kept.
Yeah. He admitted that he's never loaned the gun. No one else has shot the gun. Only he has had control of the gun.
Yep. So, I mean, there's more. I don't believe that's all they have. I believe that they have more than that,
Absolutely. And, a lot of people have different ideas about why. And to me, that's, I feel like I know who now. I know it is him. I feel strongly it is him. I just really want to know why. Just like Doug Carter said, why Libby and why Abby? I want to know why that happened.
I agree with you. I want to know that too, but I don't know. I've pretty much resigned myself that we may never know the why.
It's possible.
I mean, a lot of times these guys won't tell you why.
And a case can, a person can be convicted without knowing the why.
Yeah,
definitely. But I just feel like I want to know why. In my heart, I feel like this was a fantasy killing. Now, a lot of people think that it was a revenge, but I go back to what Robert
I don't
Ives
think
said.
It's revenge.
Yeah. I go back to what Robert Ives said about that there were at least 3 signatures, and signatures have everything in the world to do with the fantasies of the killer. And so that's what takes me there. What was done.
And I go back and forth with that because you can't have a signature on a first time crime, and they've never they haven't said anything about him having committed other crimes.
Yeah.
So he may have done some weird things at the crime scene, but I don't necessarily think that they're signatures.
Well, I think that's why Robert Ives called it a signature, because one of the descriptions of signatures is that odd things that you would do at a crime scene. And I think that he, in a way, that's what he was trying to say.
Yeah.
Not that this was his MO or his, signature that he does every time, but that the part where it was an odd fantasy type of thing played out. I think that's what he was going for.
And I also think, I definitely think that's very possible, but I also think that he did something at that crime scene to throw them off. He's a very smart person. So I'm thinking to myself that this guy could have tried to make it look like something it wasn't.
It's possible, because staging is usually one of those things that an organized killer would do. And organized killers are usually highly intelligent. So
Yep.
I don't know what his IQ is or anything about him.
Yeah, I don't either. This person we know so little about because there's not been enough reporting about him.
Right.
We just don't know. No, Ray, I do not think he will testify. Absolutely not. I do not see him testifying. His attorneys, if he's got good ones, they won't let him testify. They would not want him under cross-examine. And if he's got any kind of mental issues or stuff going on, he wouldn't be a good witness. So yeah, I don't think they would allow him to testify, and he doesn't have to. It is not up to him or his defense to prove anything. They don't have to prove his innocence. They don't have to do anything. This is all on the prosecution to prove the case.
Folsom Flash, I would agree with you.
Oh, I absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
he knows what's coming.
You can see the weight of everything on his face. He is, I mean, I don't know if he's feeling like, well, now what? I didn't think this day was ever going to come because nearly 6 years, give or take a couple of months, I thought I'd gotten away with it.
And he had to be so convinced of that and so bold, because I go back to thinking about that picture of him in the bar. He's sitting there in the bar at a table, and in the background, right behind him, is the sketch of Bridge Guy. And I think about that all the time and think how full of himself and how nervy he must be to have sat there in that chair, in that position, knowing that picture was behind him. He must have been extremely confident.
Yeah, no, exactly. I've said that all along. Very brazen and bold of a person. Miss Thang, welcome. I hope you noticed that I gave you a wrench. She has been my longest member of my channel. So I gave her a wrench the other night. Didn't even ask her. I just gave it to her.
Awesome.
But no, it is still up there. It's not gone. The filing is still on it. It
was gone for a little bit. I went to look for it that day that it came out, and it was gone for a little bit, and then it came right back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's up there. I mean, because I just looked at his case.
Yeah.
But I also thought that
sorry, I'm a little bit lagging. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I thought she would have, since it was a request as an emergency, I thought she would have ruled on it before the holiday weekend. Unless for some reason she's out of town because of the holiday. I don't know. But I'm very surprised that we didn't get a ruling on Friday.
I thought we would get one on Friday too. And as soon as I said that out of my mouth, I remember the last time that she did a ruling, it didn't come until after the weekend was over. So I'm looking for it to happen on Monday.
Yeah. Well, she may have wanted to go over everything. And she seems to be a thorough judge, in my opinion, from what I can tell. So she may have wanted to look at everything too. And kudos to her for doing that.
She might be waiting for a psych evaluation to happen on the guy as well.
You don't have to get anything, Miss Thang. It should be there. You are just now a moderator for the channel. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I don't see a wrench by her.
Oh, well, doggone it. Hold on a minute. We're going to fix that right now. There we go. Now you have it.
There we go.
Oh, hey Thistle, how are you? Good to see you.
Yep, there, she's got it.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. I can't say enough about her. Seriously, she has been here with me through thick and thin, and she's amazing. So
She is. I love Miss Thang. I
Miss
call her Miss
Thang,
Thang.
I know she's just Miss Thang. I go back and forth with that on whether or not this trial will be televised. From what I can see of the judge, I don't think she's going to allow it. I just think it'll make too much of a circus of the case. I think that they will argue for it not to be. I look for both the prosecution as well as the defense to argue against having this case televised. I wish it was going to be televised.
I do too.
Because I'd love to watch every moment of it.
I've gone back and forth on that. I've thought about the fact that she was one of the people that, really fought for and tested out cameras in the courtroom, televising it. And I thought about the small size of the courtroom in Delphi and how that would alleviate pressure for the press. But I again then bounce back like she's pretty level-headed, and I agree she probably won't want it to be a big old circus,
And that's why I think she would think it would be, and that I hope. I mean, I really hope that they do televise it and that she's able to just keep really good control of it. But the problem that you run into, if you've got a jury that you're going to have to sequester, which they're bringing this jury in, so the jury is going to have to be sequestered,
right,
for
from
however long this trial is. When you have it televised, that can be all kinds of issues and problems.
Right.
So.
That's true. So this is on a totally different subject, but it's something, there are just some questions that still linger that people keep tossing around. It comes back up. Like, for instance, I'll use this as an example before I get into the question. Richard Allen's height. People have gone back and forth on that, over and over and over. And I will tell you that I had someone who called there and got the information from Carroll County Jail, and they do have him as 5'6".
Yep,
that's what they have in their records,
and that's what I figured that he was, because when you listen, if you go all the way back to the beginning, and we're going to probably hear from her in the court case if it makes it to court. But the young eyewitness that first saw him when he was coming from the Freedom Bridge to the trail, she said he was not that much taller than her. And so that made me know that this guy was no 5'10". He was not 5'11". She was a young girl. She wasn't a tall girl. People know who this person is. There's people out there that know who this witness is. And so I'm like, she said he was not that much taller than her.
Right. And the other thing is, in talking with Noe Elmas, I asked him, what is the height of the sole of the shoes that they give you there? They give you kind of like a bright orange slides,
Right.
We're talking about the slide. And I said, and do you have those on, or are you, when they take your picture and do the height, or are you barefoot? He said, yes, you have the slides on, and the sole is about 1/2 inch. So it's not like he's 5'4" and he had, 2-inch heels on in the picture. And if you look at the picture with the height chart beside of it, and you take the average size of cinder blocks and you measure those, that would equate to each one of those hash marks is 2 inches in between. So that would put him at about 5'6", 5'6.5" in that picture.
Hey, TTM fangirl, how are you? Good to see you. Hey,
Sorry.
You're fine.
That's one of the things that people, ask about all the time. The other thing that people, can't get past is, and that I have questions about, and I wanted to get your take on it. And they have said that the girls' bodies were moved. Some people think that means they were moved a great distance. Some people think differently. What is your take on that? What do you think about how the girls were moved, how they were moved, and where were they moved to?
I think that they were not moved very far if they were moved. I think it was a very small area to where they were. I think everything went down in that general vicinity, and then he posed them. And that's what I think by moving them, because I don't obviously think that they died right next to each other. I think that he probably got to one and then got to the other one. And the other one was probably farther away than the first, than Abby. I mean, let's just talk about, I think Abby was first, Libby was second. And I think once that was done, then I think he moved them at that point and maybe posed them. And again, if that was because of a fantasy for him, or if that was because he was trying to make it appear to be something that it wasn't, because in a lot of ways I've thought, he could have tried to make this crime look to be a more of a sexual assault type of a crime, when it wasn't his intent to assault them, even though it was a sexual crime, because the violence is what he was getting off on. Any of that could be possible. Any of those scenarios could be possible. And I've thought a lot about it, and I'm like, we just don't know enough about what happened to them yet. We just don't know exactly how they were killed. We know it was with a knife, supposedly, at this point, and we don't know anything else other than that. But no, I don't think he was able, people, when people die, they become very heavy, and your body, it just comes heavy. He's 5'6". I'm not saying that he's not a strong guy. Just because you're 5'6" doesn't mean that you can't lift weights and be a strong guy. I saw him dancing around a pool table, and he looked pretty limber, pretty, you know what I mean? Like
agile. Yeah,
pretty agile. And that was just a few months before these murders. Out hiking. He was a hiker. He liked to go on trails. Obviously, we saw pictures of all of that, and horseback riding and everything. And he never looked to me like he was out of shape. He looked like he was a pretty good in shape guy. Now, not necessarily in the Walmart picture when he's laying out on the, that picture, maybe not so much.
Yeah.
But that was before, I think, or maybe even after. I can't even remember when that picture was taken, if we even know.
I think it was before.
It was before. Because when you look at him, the thing that bothers me about Richard Allen is, and I should probably do a short about this, the many faces of Richard Allen. Go back and look at all the photos that we do have of this guy and how much he changes in them.
Right.
He changes his hair. He changes his facial hair. He has a goatee, a long goatee. He has a really well-kept beard and goatee. And then all of a sudden his head's shaven. And I mean, just all these just strange. Right. I'm not saying that that's not okay to do, but it really makes you wonder what's going on with this guy. Why is he constantly changing how he looks?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was definitely purposefully doing that. I was going to go back to something that you were talking about with him being there and why he did it. And you said, it could be that he's, posed and staged the scene to make it look like something it wasn't. Absolutely, positively. And that the, killing was enough for him. If it was a fantasy, that could very well be was his thing. Some people, like Kagan Klein, talking and texting and getting visual pictures, that's enough for him.
Yes.
But also, I don't know if you know this or not, but people who commit murders and SA together, most of the time, the first time that they attempt it, they can't perform the act.
Right.
And they have to build up to that. So that could also be a
Oh,
possibility.
for sure. Especially if this was the first time acting out on a fantasy. He could have very well not been able to perform. And in the heat of the moment.
Right.
Because of the adrenaline and everything that was going on. But like you said, all those things are very, very possible. But
we don't know.
Yeah, we just don't know. But as far as him being able to pick Libby up and move her a long distance, absolutely not. I just don't see that happening.
I agree.
And I know that I take flack for this. I'm still feeling like this is him. I don't see somebody helping him with this. I just don't. In my mind, I just don't think that's what happened here. And I could absolutely be wrong. And I don't care if I am, because I just want I want whoever did this caught and any accomplices caught, period. But I'm just really feeling like it was him. It was over so quickly. I think it was all him. And and quite frankly, it could have been, he did have a fantasy, and his fantasy maybe would have been, the assault part. And he wasn't able to do that because the girls thwarted him by running. He got furious at that point, probably the anger and the rage of, we've seen that look. He has that death stare, kind of, is what I call it. It's like he can look right through you. Those eyes, it's just weird. That look he has.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
So I really think that he has the ability to have this rage. And I think that could have been what happened, is the rage in him took over. And because he may not have meant for it to turn out the way it did. He may not have meant for this to be a murder. He may have just wanted to do the assault and be done with it.
Yeah, I've thought that many, many times and leaned towards that very heavily.
But like you said, we just don't know enough about him and his history. And hopefully we will learn more about that, because that's going to speak a lot to how he, does he have a history of this? Does he have a history of sexual assault? Does he have a history of preying on people or women or young girls? We don't know any of that yet. We can't call him a pedophile because we don't know. We just don't at this point.
Right. I just saw a question in the chat. Somebody saying they would agree with you, except for the fact that Nick talked about other actors. And what I think is, I agree with Kristen that I think he was the only one on the scene and committing the murders. I hate to say that word because I know YouTube doesn't like it. Committing the unaliving. I agree with you 100%. I think that it's possible that he may have become aware of the girls or one of the girls because of the Dropbox and Kagan Klein's information. That it might be connected in that way. And those are the other actors. And when Doug Carter talks about tentacles, I think that is probably connections to that Dropbox, connections to, the CSAM world, that it's widespread. And, we know that it's technically been called the largest CSAM case in the state of Indiana's history. And I think that's probably where the tentacles come in.
Yep. And I agree, because it's really hard for all of us that are invested in this case, that have been there from the beginning. We've been through so much. We've been through so many POIs. We've been through so many sketches and so many theories and so many rabbit holes that we all are exhausted. And I think when the Kleins came about, it was such a nice feeling of, oh my gosh, we finally got a bit of information from law enforcement, and they told us what we've all wanted to know, is the why. It really was catfishing after all this time, even though they told us in the beginning that it wasn't. And I'm like, so my mind was boggled with that, but I think we all kind of ran with it and started thinking, okay, so then we were trying to fit the Kleins into the holes, the square pegs into the round holes, and all that. We were trying to put them at the bridge and place them at the bridge. And it wasn't working out, because if you really realize, the law enforcement wasn't saying anything to us about the Kleins. They came out only about Anthony Schatz and said they wanted to talk to people who had met Anthony Schatz, talked to him, or interacted with him. They didn't come out in December and say, we found Anthony Schatz, this fake profile, and this guy that created it, we've arrested for CSAM, and he's in jail. We want somebody to come forward that knows him or has interacted with him in relationship to the Abby and Libby case. They didn't say that. We ran with that. You know what I mean? The public murder sheet put it out there. We had the HLN, Barbara McDonald, goes and interviews him. Everybody, jumped on that interview and what was he saying and not saying. And then we had that interrogation come out, and people did, that interrogation, Deb, was clear back in August of 2020. And here we were in December of 2021, and everybody was thinking it was relevant. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think we wanted it to be. And it's been hard for people to let go of the Kleins because of that. And they still think that there may or may not have been some sort of catfishing. And they could very well be right. I'm not trying to say they're not. I just don't know anymore. I just don't really, I'm not feeling that anymore.
I think part of the reason too, and it may lean towards the other direction, is that people felt it was tied in, is that when they came out with, the young cop coming and saying, if you had any connection with, the Anthony Schatz account, blah, 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 the tip line they used was Libby and Abby's tip line. So that, to me, is very confusing if it doesn't have anything to do with it.
I think I agree. I said that too. I was like, why would they have the tips coming to that tip line if there wasn't some reason? But I do think there was, because I do think that they knew that Kagan had communicated with Libby. I think they knew that.
And how strange is it that he was communicating with Libby, and then this happens to her. If it's not connected, it is absolutely unbelievable that those two little girls were, involved with two people so vile.
And and I think that goes back to another show that we could talk about for hours on protecting our kids and our teenagers online from these predators, because you never know who's out there. But in such a small community like Delphi is, you're absolutely right, but again, I cannot believe, and I know it's everywhere. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to just badmouth Indiana all the time, but I'm serious. That area of Indiana, I can't believe all the sexual predators that are in that area. Every
Well, you
time
would,
we turn around, it's
yeah.
somebody else.
Well, it's because of this case and many others that we're hearing a lot about it. That you might be very surprised to know just how many there are in any given area. I don't know if you know, my husband's a psychologist, and he
No,
has
I didn't
worked
know
with,
that, but that's
yeah,
cool.
yeah, he's worked with very serious offender kids his entire career. And he used to come home and just say, this case today was really difficult. And he would never tell me who or anything, just the basis of what he had to go through, listen to, deal with. And it's just amazing. And he'd say to me, you would be surprised if you knew how many predators that we don't even have on file that are right in your area. And I think just because this case and all of the arrests that they're making because of the tentacles, it seems like, wow, Indiana's horrible. I don't want to live there, but I've lived here most of my life, and it's like any other place. So
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, I think that that's the truth, and it's just rampant. We don't realize
yeah,
just how rampant it is. And I've said it before on other live streams, that you just don't know what that person laying in bed next to you is doing when you're not there. And that's
mm-hmm.
the bottom line, because it's in every walk of life. These guys are not just vagrants that are walking the alley, drinking a bottle of Jack in a brown paper bag, filthy and dirty and disheveled and looking like a predator in our mind.
Yeah,
These are
right.
guys who are businessmen. Some of them are in government. Some of them are in, law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
doctors, every single profession you can think of, Boy Scout leaders, Girl Scout leaders. I mean, they're everywhere.
Right, exactly. And they strategically put themselves in those type of
Yes.
volunteer positions, jobs, etc., so they can have access to children.
Yeah. And so, it's, hey, Grizz, how are you, my dear? Good to see you.
Ray Jones is
What's he up to? Ray, what are you up to?
Ray. I'm gonna have to lock you up in my basement again, Ray.
Oh.
we have an ongoing joke.
Um, Nightbot is really getting mad at you, Shane. Kelly, I agree with you that I believe, in my opinion, that he was the only one physically there. I'm not sure it's a cybercrime yet. I'm not. And the reason I say that is because he worked at CVS right across the parking lot to McDonald's. And Kelsey would take Libby to McDonald's a lot after school, and they would get a Coke and fries, and that was their thing.
Sweet tea
That
and
they
fries.
yes. And
Yep.
iced tea. And
Yeah.
they would go, they would do that regularly. And all he had to been doing was standing outside smoking cigarettes and caught them, saw them,
Mm-hmm.
saw her. She may have fit the fantasy. Who knows? I mean, and at this, like I said, and at this point in time, I know everybody's like, well, how would he have known the girls were going to be there? And that is what's hard to not think, that somehow the Anthony Schatz account had to be involved in some way.
Exactly.
So I think we're going to have to wait to, to find that out, sadly. But there just are a lot of unanswered questions.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that it is very possible that he was one of the ones that, for whatever reason, because he worked in Peru at one time, he may very well know the Kleins, just from interacting with them at a CVS in their hometown.
Right.
and we just don't know yet
And I've
if
also
there
heard
is
that,
a connection.
people from Mexico, Indiana would go to Peru. Teenagers would go to Peru because it's a bigger area. There was more to do there, so it could go back a ways. He
Yeah.
could have known, the whole Klein family. We don't know.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I can say, from being a girl who grew up in a small community, lots of farm communities, everybody knows everybody. Everybody's families know everybody else's families. And if you've
Yep.
lived here all your life, or whatever, your relatives knew their relatives, and sometimes they even got married. I mean, it's just like there's it's a lot smaller circle, basically.
Mhm.
And especially, like, if you guys do the same kind of things, if you go to church, or if you do whatever it is that you do, you tend to see these people on the regular, even if it's like going to the grocery store, because these smaller communities don't have a lot of big box stores. They have to go to a bigger city or a bigger community for that.
Yeah. That's
And
exactly right.
we absolutely know that he loved to drink and he loved to play pool. And so did his wife.
Yeah.
So they were social in that sense.
I think she was probably the one that he seems to be withdrawn and kept to himself if you look at a lot of those pictures.
Yes.
So I think that she was the social butterfly, though, and more assertive than he was.
Yeah. Well, if you look at him when he's standing there in the video of the pool hall that night,
Mm-hmm.
a big long video,
Yeah.
he's leaning up against this pillar in the center of the room for the longest time. And I mean, yeah, to me, you can tell he's short there. I mean, maybe it's because I have people in my family that are 6'5". My oldest grandson is 6'1". I have tall, my family are all tall people. I'm taller than Richard Allen. So, but I'm like, I knew when I saw him against that pillar, he seemed short. And also when he was dancing around the pool table, he seemed short to me. So, but that's another thing. I mean, and I'm not diagnosing him with this or anything like that, but you've heard of short man's disease, and being short as a man is hard. A lot of men have trouble with that, and if he was actually that short, that's shorter than average height for a guy. So he could have had all kinds of issues emotionally and everything because of that. And maybe he was withdrawn. Maybe he was picked on a lot as a kid. Maybe he was bullied, because of his height. Who knows?
Right.
And everybody said, his daughter looks a lot like Libby. And, I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but that is bizarre. I mean, if it does, that to me is really weird.
Yeah, with her with that tie-dye, it is a Libby Abbey shirt.
Yes, but she's laying on the bed with the cat on her back. Yeah.
Yeah. That was really odd, really bizarre.
And Kelly,
I feel
Erin,
sorry for her.
You are absolutely right. How rare is it that you leave your house and you're dead in a double homicide an hour later?
Yeah.
You just don't hear of it. And especially in a type of community such as Delphi. It's just not something we read about or hear about. I think it's another reason why this case exploded as it did, because of it being rural and people identified with it, and especially women who've had best friends. We all put ourselves in that position that could have been us, because I mean, when I was growing up, my best friend and I, we used to ride our bikes everywhere. We used to walk on trails together, go in the woods, you know what I mean, together. We did that
Mm-hmm.
regularly.
Yeah.
That was just something we did. So,
Times have changed. You can't do that now. You can't even go in. You can't even, they used to say go everywhere with a friend. You can't even do that now. You have to go in a big group.
in a big group. And then you're not
Right.
even safe, because then when I stop and think about the big group situation, all I think about is Idaho. Here we've got
Yeah.
4 friends, and they're brutally murdered in their beds. So, I mean, it's like, you just don't even know. Hey, Moon Crystal, it's okay. Thank you. People do it all the time, but it's fine. Yeah, I'm Kristen with an I.
Yeah. Sisu says, I would love to have heard the conversation in that van while they were searching his house.
Oh,
I
yeah.
would love to know that. Absolutely. The conversation
Yep.
between the two of them. I want to know what they found in his vehicle. I want to know what they found in his house, in his backyard.
Yep.
I think we all do.
Yep. And I know it's like everybody, there's a lot of people, Shane's talking about the fact that the conservation officer was not named or redacted in the PC. They don't tell everything in the PC, in the probable cause, though. That's the thing that you got to remember. They don't lay their whole case out in a probable cause affidavit.
Yeah.
They have much more that they're going to hold to the vest, and they're not going to let anybody know until that discovery has to happen.
Right. I think people have assumed that it was Dan Doolin. There were actually, I called, and there were 2 conservation officers assigned to that area at the time. And I can't recall the other one's name. It was an older guy, but the Dan Doolin guy was the one that most people have thought and gone with. But we don't know that 100%.
No, that's true. Well, all I know, Elaine, is that his daughter was married in 2017. I think sometime between 2017 and 2018, because her wedding pictures were all over his wife's Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can get access to them anymore, but I have a couple pictures of him with his daughter at the wedding, and they looked like a normal father and daughter would look on your daughter's wedding day. That's all I can tell you.
There was a one picture with her in the middle and the parents kissing her on the cheek, and that one really affects me, because I think, oh my gosh, that was probably a precious picture to her, and now how does it make her feel when she looks at that?
Yep. Because I don't know who it was in chat that said it earlier. I don't remember if it was somebody, but somebody in chat mentioned that they feel bad for his wife and his family. And I do too, because they didn't ask for this. And one day their life just exploded. And everything that they've known all their lives. His wife and he have been together since high school. You think you know someone.
Yeah. I have to think that she had to suspect it, because my husband and I have talked about that many times. And he said, if you saw me on that bridge, wouldn't you know that that was me? I think I would.
Well, I think what happens, though, you would think so, looking at it from the outside. But I think that our brains have a way of stopping us from seeing things that we don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
If she did think about it, sorry, hold on, I need to get a drink of water.
That's okay. While you're doing that, I'll say something. Exactly. Your mind will do it. And I think the fact that he could say to her, I I told the conservation officer I was there, and they know, and they have it on file, and they weren't interested. I think that probably would have validated her. It couldn't be him.
Yeah, and what I was saying is, yeah, I just think that our brains kind of protect us from something like that, because that would be horrific, and you're thinking it, but you don't want to believe it, and you're talking yourself out of it at every
Mm-hmm.
single moment, because all you keep going back to is all the things that you've shared and all the things that you know and love about this person, and you're like, there's absolutely no way that's that person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm crazy for thinking that. And I
Yeah,
think that that's kind of what happens. And if you listen, or if you read the book, BTK's daughter Carrie Rawson talks about all of this, and
really.
how it feels to have your everything that you've known and grown up with, it's just completely unvalidated, all on
Mm-hmm.
one moment, your father being arrested as a serial killer. And that whole time, from the time she was born and was raised by him, she never saw one moment that would even make her think that he was capable of that. Although she does talk about, there were a couple of times where he got really angry and mad at her brother, and she remembered that. But as far as anything else, or abuse to her mother, or or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
that was not anything that was seen. And so I think, as outsiders looking in, we think, oh, well, we would certainly know that if that was my husband, and I've lived with this person for 30 some years, or whatever it is, 38 years, or whatever their marriage is. And you would think that she would know. But these guys are so good at compartmentalizing their lives and
Mm-hmm.
living one life and another. It goes back to the abuse, the CSAM. We were just talking about it. These guys live online, and they're doing all these nasty things online in the middle of the night, or whenever the heck they're doing it, when their family doesn't have a clue as to what they're doing.
Right. I think, and I agree 100% with that. The part that I don't know how she would have fully justified, and it had to subconsciously be there, is the fact that he was at the location dressed like the bridge guy and has a coat just like that. So those are the things that I always wonder. Did she subconsciously think that's him? And I've heard some rumors around that she had suspected before, but obviously they are rumors. We don't have any truth to that. But yeah, I mean, they're good at hiding what it is that they do.
They are. And Kelly's right. I've this is one of the things that I, early on, right after he was arrested, and I started thinking about all this with him, because we didn't have him on our radar. So it's not like he was a POI that we've,
Yeah.
that we had followed or anything. This was all new. And I started thinking about this guy, and I'm like, he worked right out in the public every single day after that murder, and interacted with the town, and interacted with family. And for a fact that the families, and Tobe Lesenby, and everybody that's associated, ran into him at CVS. And Tobe said,
Yeah.
for how long? God, I recognize that voice,
I was
but I
just going to
just
say
don't
that.
know where. And
Yeah.
what do you think he's thinking now?
Like, oh, that was it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think he's probably thinking a lot of things like, why did I turn those dogs back? I think about that a lot too. I think if he had not turned the
Oh
dogs
yeah.
back,
Oh yeah.
they could absolutely would have followed that trail,
Yep.
that he walked back to his vehicle, and maybe it would have been solved a long time ago, but
Yeah.
it's another thing.
No, for sure.
And that was one of the other things that I was thinking about. People wanted to know why they didn't want anyone to cross over the other side. Is because they knew they had the creek, they knew that they had the dogs coming at that point, and they didn't want to confuse the dogs' scent, picking up a scent on that side. And so that's, why they didn't want anyone looking on that side of the creek. But then of course the dogs got turned back because they located the girls.
Right. Oh yeah. If they had brought those dogs in, they could have tracked him all the way back to the CPS building. They could have maybe even gone farther than that. But there would have been, and what upsets me, I think, more than even that, I guess, and that I can't, it angers me, but it also just brings tears to my eyes when I think about it. He was just yards from Derek.
Yeah.
And how that must feel for Derek to realize that he was right there when his little girl was being killed. And he didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know.
Right. Oh, he has to replay that in his mind over and over, wishing that somehow he could.
What if he had gone what if he would have gone the 501 first and not the 505? What would have happened had Derek gone the 501 first?
Right.
Absolutely.
He replays that in his brain all the time. And
oh yeah, for sure.
For a father, father always wants to be the protector of his children.
Yeah.
Or should be. And I think that would be very, very hard to deal with. To know that you were so close, but you couldn't help.
You couldn't help, and you couldn't do anything. And that to me is the gut-wrenching blow to this story. That Derek was right there, and just, it was probably all over by then, but maybe not. Close. It was close.
Right.
Because they're kind of saying it was all over by 3:30, so but still. Yeah, GP, we don't know. We just don't know. We don't know the guy's past. We don't know anything about him really, except what the little bit that we've been told. It's not like he's got tons of friends falling out of the woodwork wanting to talk about him. So I'm sure they're looking.
He does not have a digital footprint that we can look for either. Not to say that he wasn't on the internet doing things, but he certainly was on it using somebody else's.
He wasn't on it as Richard Allen.
No. Nope.
So if he was on it, and trust me, this guy followed this case. He followed it closely.
Oh,
I mean, absolutely. There is no doubt in my mind that he was on social media and that he was watching and listening to everything that was being said about Bridge Guy and the case. And that's why I said I think he really, really had to have been shocked when they showed up at his house. Because
Folsom, yes, we have Indiana has a death penalty. Go ahead.
Yes. They because he had to have been, I think, really riding pretty high, feeling like, wow, because he was out there hearing the scuttlebutt about the Kleins and about, what I mean, all these other POIs. And he was like, God, they don't even have a clue it was me.
Right. Like I said earlier, he's brazen enough to sit right in front of the sketch in a bar.
Melissa Maria's on vacation, and I'm not sure. Oh, John has had a change of hours, so he may not be here as much as he used to be. He's catching me on the replays, but yeah, I miss both of them as well. But Maria's on vacation.
Okay.
What well, I think that, Elaine, that's what led him to go to law enforcement. That's why he went and said, hey, I was out there that day, because when he saw that there was a video of him, well, actually not even the video, when he saw just the still photo, he was like, crap, they know I was there, because now they have video, or they have a picture of me. So he had to give a reason for why he was out there. So he gave some hackakami story, cockamamie story is what I was trying to say, about watching fish and watching his stock ticker as he was out on the trail. I just don't believe any of that.
When he's saying that, he was walking along watching his stock ticker, I have a theory, and it's just my theory, that he was actually using some type of app to track the girls.
It's very possible.
Back then, the yellow app, which they've talked about in the past, and actually went over to France to talk with the company.
What about the geocache app?
Well, the yellow app actually had an ability to GPS and track. And I'm thinking, if he were to have purchased a phone from someone, maybe Kagan Klein, and maybe it was already loaded. It was a burner phone that was already loaded with all kinds of pictures and things, and also that app, because he was interested in those girls. It's very possible he could have been tracking them.
So this person, Folsom, says, my sister's granddaughter's friend is neighbors of Richard Allen, and she said you never seen him hardly. So there you go. He was either working or holed up in his house.
Yep.
So, or we was at the bar with his wife playing pool and hanging out with friends. Because I know they did that a couple times a week.
Right.
Because they played in a league. And that, you could very well be right, because obviously, they did go to France for the yellow app, and it'll be interesting to find out where or if that plays a part in this case.
Yeah. Because, I hate saying I have a source. We all hate that.
With you, but with you, I trust your source. Does that make sense?
I actually do have a couple sources, and one of them was the person who was able to track down the fact that Tony Klein had not been arrested back when all of that happened. And
I remember.
We were able to break that information in news and let people know that he wasn't arrested. He was actually buying dog food at the Farm and Fleet store.
Farm and Fleet. I remember when you sent it out.
Yeah. So I have a couple people that are very good and that are connected. And one of the people that I'm connected with absolutely says there was a phone found in the Wabash, that it was broken in half, and they were able to retract information. Maybe that's the burner phone.
That would be interesting, huh?
Yeah. Again, we don't know that for a fact. I always want to say that. There's speculations based on some good intel, but it's possible.
I'm thinking that, he went to the conservationist, the conservation officer, and he gave him this story thinking, man, I'm going to get another phone call. They're going to call me and bring me in and interrogate me, or, whatever, and ask me more questions. And when he didn't get called and he didn't get brought in, he was probably thinking, what the heck's going on? And then he just started watching really closely, and then just continued to live his life, which is what these types of people can do. I mean, it's again, it's hard for us. I hate using the word normal, but for us, to wrap our heads around how sociopaths or, psychopaths, and I mean, he's not been diagnosed, so I don't know, but
Yeah.
I would definitely say he's got to be one or the other, and to be able to do what he did,
Yeah.
and live that way for under the radar, for all that time, he's got to have one of those diagnoses. But
Yep. Yeah.
that's what's hard for us in the general public to figure out. We can't wrap our heads around, well, how did he do that? How did he commit 2 brutal murders of 2 teenage girls in such a small community and continue to just live his normal everyday life for nearly 6 years and nobody knew about him? Well,
I think, even if someone did say, dude, you look a lot like him, he could say, I went and talked to the police. I told them I was there.
Well, they said, the owner of JC came out and said that he did talk in conversation about the case at the bar. There was lots of conversation about the case at the bar, and he participated in it. It would be really interesting to know what was said in those conversations.
Right. Right. Did he just make a few like, oh, that's too bad that happened, and kept quiet, or was he actively giving his ideas?
Or was he steering them in different, in different directions, giving a different kind of a narrative, all that kind of stuff, because, I just think, they say that he's this really nice guy, very helpful at work, the type of person that if you walked into the store, he's going to ask you what he can do to help you. So he's very much that type of a personality. But who said it? Somebody just said it in here. Hold on a second. Angela Lester said, it's weird that not one person has come out and said anything about him, like a friend who taking up for him and saying he's not capable of this. He didn't do this. No one has come out saying how weird he is. It's like he was invisible. It's like nobody paid attention to him.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of people that had worked with him. One that said, I didn't see anything. He was always nice to me. And then another one that said that she had seen the not so nice side of him. But that's not one of his neighbors or one of his friends or somebody he played pool with.
Right. I totally agree with C's through here. I don't believe the tip that was given to the conservation officer was lost. I believe that everybody in those early days were focused on Ron Logan because the FBI was heavy onto Ron Logan. They were running around crazy about Ron Logan. And I think that was one reason why the Kleins were kind of backburnered. And they did say that the first sketch person was talked to. So if that's true, they thought he was a witness. I said it. I know this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I said it early on. This guy, I bet you, turns out to be a witness, either a witness or somebody in the search, because a lot of times that's what these people will do. They come back and put themselves into the case so that they can follow closely what's going on. I think had Brian Kohberger not been caught, he would have done the same thing. Same type of individual. He would have put himself into that investigation somehow. They think they're smarter than law enforcement. And he had every reason to feel that way for years because they weren't looking at him. As far as he knows and as far as we know.
Exactly.
Yes, Lynn, he does have a right to see his family in person. He has not been found guilty of any crime. He's merely arrested. So yes, he
Yeah.
can have visitors.
Angela, he's not that far from his family. That I don't believe that that's the reason. It's only about an hour. I think it was an hour and 3 minutes from his family. I mean, if it was my spouse and I still believed them and, thought they were given a raw deal, I would drive an hour and 3 minutes to see them. So I don't think it's a matter of that.
And Shane, I think you're right. They're not letting them because it sounded like, from how I interpreted it, it had to do with the type of protection he's getting inside the prison and where he's being held inside the prison. It's not easy to bring people in to visit. It's a safety thing, and I think that's what they were trying to allude to.
Right.
Whether or not that's fair is another topic, but
if he's allowed to talk to them on a pad, notebook or pad, whatever device he has, why haven't they communicated with him there either? If they're still behind him and support him.
Well, I think they said that he does have access to that, but they have to pay for it. And right now I'm thinking they don't have the money is what they're trying to claim.
Mm-hmm. But it's, not even once. It's not that expensive from what I've understood. So not even once in 5 months. It makes me wonder if they're not allowing him. It's more so they're not allowing him to.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
And I don't know that he hasn't talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that they made it seem like he was having to pay for those phone calls, and we all know they're expensive. And the family has to pay for those.
Yeah. Did you see in the chat earlier on that somebody said that in some of the groups in the past, there was a Rick Allen Hill?
I did see that.
Yeah, that's interesting to me.
I've never seen that because I was never in the Facebook groups, but I was big on Reddit. So I don't remember ever seeing a Richard Allen in anything. Me personally.
Yeah. I don't remember seeing a Rick Allen Hill, but I was only in maybe 2 Facebook groups, back then.
But again, I think he's smart enough that he would not have been on social media as himself.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. Hey,
Yeah,
Beth, how are you? It's good to see you.
I love the intro he did for you.
Oh, I know. His music is so fantastic. He's awesome. Can't say enough about him.
Oh. Just checking out the chat.
Yeah.
Sierra says you have to call and you could be put on the phone for hours. Then it hangs up for that day and you try the next day. Huh. On the device? On the iPad?
I think you have to set up calls, don't you?
Yeah, you do. You have to schedule them.
Yeah. Because they have to make it available for him to be able to talk. Shauna asked, do you think he will be well enough to stand trial, or is it only a bunch of bull? Well, it's hard for me to say because I'm not there and I don't know. I can't diagnose him and say whether or not he's mentally fit to stand trial. I think at this point in time, his attorneys need to push to have him evaluated.
Right.
And have him looked at to make sure that he is able to stand trial. I think that the judge will figure out real quickly if it's a bunch of bull or not. Because if One of the things that the state of Indiana doesn't want is a suit because of or maltreatment for someone who has not even been convicted of a crime. That's going to be they're going to talk about his civil rights and his constitutional rights being, messed with. And that could be a big mess and problem for the state of Indiana. So I'm sure that Doug Carter or whoever, probably Doug, has been in contact with whoever's the head of prisons in the state of Indiana and said, we need to get to the bottom of this and find out what's going on with all of the allegations of him in dirty clothes and, not being allowed visitation and all of that. I'm sure that they're looking into all of that.
Right. And again, looking in the chat here, somebody talking about only getting 1 or 2 showers a week, possibly, but there's also a sink in his room. So he can bathe. And I think it's interesting. If you zoom in on his hands, they look really nice and clean. His fingernails are short, look manicured. So
well,
I don't know.
Caesar says
strange.
He's not getting showers, but he's able to cut his hair.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just strange. If you just, the first impression is like, oh my gosh,
Oh yeah, I was shocked.
And then you start to look and think, and you're like,
Mother of Dragon says they've already paid a $400,000 claim on another prisoner. That's not good.
Right. And we know how they treated Ron Logan. According to him, they took his teeth, they made him eat hard food, they had him sleeping on the hard concrete.
Yep.
So I don't know. I mean, it might be a facility that has big problems and needs to be straightened out. Yep. I just don't necessarily see the things that his attorneys listed. I can kind of rationalize all those things.
You're right, Sierra. I thought he looked bad at the last court date as well. I thought he was definitely dropping a lot of weight very quickly, but I can't believe what he looks like now. He looks like half the person that he was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
very thin.
Mm-hmm. For sure. So, and Deb's right though. I mean, if this man was drinking multiple packs of, 6 packs of beer a night, we don't know. We know that he had problem with alcohol, as it's been reported.
Right.
So that could be another reason for the dropping of the weight. And, if he was truly an alcoholic and is not getting the alcohol now, that can make him very sick. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, to just stop drinking like that it's very hard on the body.
Mm-hmm. And I think that he would have been past the withdrawal symptoms. However, it could have taken its physical toll on how he looks.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. We don't want any grounds for appeal. Exactly, sees through.
Yeah, I definitely don't want an appeal. I definitely don't want an appeal for this reason. I just don't, because, if somebody comes up and says that, he's being mistreated and all of this, I think that has great weight. And like, I started thinking about it and I thought, could this really be a defense strategy? And I really believe it could be if he didn't look as bad as he looked. You know what I mean?
Right.
And CJK, oh, Shane, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I love Deb. She's great.
Thank you.
She has some of the best insight on the internet when it comes to cases, and especially Delphi, because she lives there. I mean, not in Delphi, but I mean, she lives close. But
and I've followed since day one.
Yep, me
I mean,
too.
we were literally talking about should we go up and help in the search when they came on and announced that they had found the girls. Oh, it's
CJK said, and I know this for a fact because of my mother. My mother was treated horrifically in 2 different nursing homes that she was in before she passed away. And nursing homes, they don't get bathed or have showers daily. He's got a haircut and he's shaved, just lost his beer belly and is paler. It's different. So you will look different because it's changed. It's, he's not eating.
right.
And I agree with all of that. But I also agree with his attorneys that they need to investigate it and make sure that what they're claiming is not happening. Lynn says that there was a case in California where the person had no bed and the judge ordered a mistrial.
Oh, wow.
You don't want to see stuff like that.
No, absolutely not. When I showed his picture to my husband and I said, give me your expert opinion here. Do you think this looks like a guy who's in psychosis or that, he's become schizophrenic due to this? And he looked at it for a long time and he said, here's the thing. You cannot diagnose someone from a picture.
No, you can't.
He said, what I can say is what he does look like is that he's had a great deal of stress and it's had a physical effect on him.
Yeah. I thought it was odd the way he's holding his hand in this picture. I don't know if this picture was taken like in a quick movement and he was moving at the time of it, but he's holding his hand weird here. In my opinion.
It's almost as if he's pointing to the spot on his shirt or something in a way.
Or if it's almost to me like his hands hurt because of the way he's holding. It's almost like it's the way you would cradle your arm in your hand if it was hurting you. I don't know. It's just really, I just thought it was weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah. I don't know if this is all lighting that's here and all this shading that's on this red outfit, but it's filthy. It looks filthy. I don't know if it is, if that's all shading.
I don't know. I'm looking though. I just zoomed in and not only is he handcuffed there, but it's one of those that's
around his waist.
The thing around the waist, and so his hands are close to his waist. So
yes,
if he was,
so he can't grab somebody.
Right. So if he was pointing to his shirt, I mean, that's probably why it's.
Good night,
that
Shane.
Weird angle.
Good night, Shane. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you.
Or motioning to as my, like me. If he's saying me.
Yeah. It's just that look on his face, it's just.
Yeah.
I don't know. He
definitely looks distressed.
Yeah. Well, they've put it out there and see-through's right. His attorneys are doing a great job because they put out this picture and they've got everybody talking about whether or not Richard Allen is, so that's what they want. They want people thinking about him and sympathizing about him and all of that. But I think it's all, I think this is all stress related. But like I said, there were rumors out there that he went to a mental institution of some kind after the murders. Now, if that was because, never mind, Shane. Sorry, Shane was saying goodnight to GP. I thought he was saying goodnight to us. He's up watching UFC. Well, good. I'm glad you're still with us, Shane. No problem. But no, I was thinking, I remember where I was going with that.
That he was sent, you said, to some type of mental facility, the rumor.
Oh yeah, he was sent to a mental facility. And again, I go back to the whole, they didn't just say that he's depressed or that he's having a real struggle with what's happening to him. They used the words schizophrenia, delusional and not
Or
in the
psychosis.
or
Yeah.
you know, yeah, and not in the moment, like not in reality. And I'm
Mhm.
like, those are all huge things for a defense to be talking about their client, because to me that does lead to defense strategy.
Yeah. And loss of memory. They mentioned that as well.
Yeah, I know. I thought about that. Boy, isn't that easy? You know, all of a
Yeah.
sudden you don't remember things that you should
Yeah.
remember, you know? I don't think
Right.
that that's going to be a great defense, though. I just don't. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I'm sorry, I don't remember. I don't think that that's going to be good enough.
I don't think so either.
But he hasn't, from what we know, he hasn't seen the discovery. Sees through that the attorneys are saying that on the 24th of March, they sent 1,000 pages of police reports for him to read, and they still have not been given to him. That's one of their complaints in their motion. And here we are, almost the 10th of April. There's no reason he shouldn't have had access to those by now. That's a lot of
Exactly.
reading. 1,000 pages is a lot of police reports to go through.
And that's that's a valid point to me. And the others, like, oh, the cell's too small, he's laying on the pad on the floor, those aren't valid, because that's just the way it is. But not having the paperwork and been able to go over that's a valid point.
Yeah, no, exactly. Lynn says that the case that was dismissed, Judge Daniel Lowenthal declares mistrial for McDonald's armed robbery suspect who was sleepy in court. And it was Rebecca Rosenberg of Fox News. So he was sleepy because he wasn't probably getting any sleep in his cell. They weren't allowing him to sleep, because that's some of the things that you hear sometimes in jail, that they don't, they play loud music, they keep the lights on, they do all kinds of things to these guys, especially when it comes to child predators.
Mm-hmm.
They get a lot of stuff. And it's not just the inmates that are doing it. A lot of times it's the prison officials that are doing it as well. So those things, I mean, again, if he was a convicted child killer, I would be having a different conversation than saying, what I've said tonight. But he's not been convicted. He's still innocent, because we haven't had the opportunity to see him in court with the prosecution presenting their case against him.
It's going to get interesting.
Do you think McClellan will hire another prosecutor?
He needs to, because
case,
there's so much, 100,000 pages.
Mm-hmm.
He needs help. He needs another assistant, and he needs another prosecutor. And I'm surprised when they ask him why he hadn't. He's like, well, I haven't had time. Well, dude, hire another one and you'll have more time. I thought he didn't have the money.
I thought he'd asked them. I thought he had gone to the county and asked for money for more.
He had been approved to hire another prosecutor. He just said he hadn't had the time to do it. And he was approved to hire another assistant, and they approved the money. However, he hired someone and then they backed out of the job. And now they're saying, well, I'm not sure you need the money. Like, you already approved the money.
Yeah. What? Yeah, exactly. Because the last I had heard, the last I had seen, was when Nick was at the Carroll County meeting, the board meeting, and was asking them for more money for his office, because they did need to hire people. He needed more help. And and then he was also asking for a raise. And they said they would address that at a different time. Or whatever. That meeting was not the time to be talking about that. But I think that came out after we found out how much an hour the defense is making from the state.
Right.
So, So, it's just Mother of Dragons is funny. I work in government and I've never seen anything like these people in Delphi. Yeah, it's a different breed, isn't it?
Yeah.
Man,
Small town
it's
USA.
small town USA for sure, for sure. And these small towns have 3 or 4 sheriff deputies and a sheriff, and that's what they have. And it's a lot of times, well, in some of the small towns, as we saw in the Murdoch case, that family had a stranglehold on the law for over 100 years.
Yeah.
And so, they were basically the law, no matter what you said or whatever. That happens a lot in small town America because you only have so many people. It's a small town. So you get a lot of nepotism. You get a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Oh, I see what she says. There's something else. Their feelings seems to be important, not the federal laws. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've felt that a lot this week, so I totally understand where you're coming from there. It's true. And basically what I've told people is if you don't like the way the laws are written, you can change them by voting for different people to represent you, and go to the state or your federal representatives and change them. That's what we have to do in this country to bolster change, or go speak on the floor of the House and Senate in your state and talk about the laws that you want to see changed. I frankly believe that child predators in this country have some of the most lenient sentences I've ever seen in my life. The more I cover true crime and I see what our children are, I don't feel that our children are valued. It's like, it's just the way I feel right now in this society. It's just like, whatever. It's just, this guy did what to a child, and you're going to give him 7 years on good behavior? What the heck?
Yeah. We have a group here in Indiana called PCI, Predator Catchers Incorporated, I think is what it stands for. And they go around and they kind of operate little catfishing things online where they pretend to be, a young girl or a young boy. And then they go to meet this person that's talking suggestively to them, and they confront them and they read off your text messages to them and ask them why they're doing it. And then by the end of it, usually law enforcement shows up and arrests the person. But it is amazing how many times law enforcement refuses to come out, or they get arrested and just turn them loose. They caught one guy 3 times in one night. He would get back online and talk to another that they were posing to be a young girl. And what's really sad is sometimes it's children as young as, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old that these adult men are trying to meet up with.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. I saw one, Maria got me, True Crime Maria got me watching, Indiana's got a couple of YouTube channels where the guys go and meet these people and actually go out and they catch them.
It's probably PCI. One guy's name is Eric. Eric.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God, man.
Yeah.
I
ran into him.
I don't know how he does what he does, because some of these people are so vile. One of the ones that I remember vividly watching was that he was trying to meet a 13-year-old girl and wanted her to bring her baby sister with her.
Yes.
And I was like, that just made my skin crawl. I wanted to take him and end him right then and there. I was just I know.
It's sickening.
Oh my God. You just don't know how it's just terrible.
Funny thing, that Eric guy from PCI, before
Yeah.
I even knew about the show, I was in Brownsburg. I'd been at my daughter's house, and I stopped at the Walmart there on the way home. I had to pick some things up, and I saw him, and immediately he's just a very striking looking person, and I immediately like looked towards him and made eye contact with him, and I just had this feeling about him, like this is somebody important or special or whatever. And then weeks later, he came up on Facebook, and there he was. I'm like, that's the guy I saw in Walmart, and there he was tracking down these people. It's
Yep.
pretty cool. Pretty cool guy.
Troll Sniper says, I live in the city here in Indiana, but the small towns here have so little oversight. It's easy to get away with crimes, drug dealing, because law enforcement is so minuscule in those places. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
That is God's honest truth. They don't have enough staffing, and that's the oversight. That's the other problem. That's the problem I think we have in the Flora fire case, is we have got nobody doing checking and balancing of that investigation. And there's just been so many things that have been mishandled, and it makes you angry to think that that would go on, but it happens. And it happens a lot in small town America because there's nobody to overlook it.
Yeah.
And come in and audit, and do an audit and say, hey, let's look and see,
Right.
And I hate bringing it up because I do bring it up a lot, but at least last year, Indiana was 48th in the United States for the solvability rate of murder. That doesn't have that's not a good track record for Indiana. No. And they Doug Carter should want to fix that. That should be high on their resolution list. Now, I understand that, they've got major issues in their big cities. Indianapolis has got major crime going on. There's tons of shootings. I mean, you see it, it's no different than any other large town in our country right now.
Yeah.
But when you look at these small towns where they've got these cases that are all, unsolved, and I'm going to Carroll County, I'm going to say, we got 6 girls here that, lost their lives and were murdered, and nobody seems to light a fire. We're going on 7 years for the Flora girls, and still nothing. And it's like just crickets.
I know.
Nothing. So
it's very sad. I've been reading a lot about that case and trying to bring myself up to speed with it so that I can, do something to help out as far as bringing it to the public's,
right.
eye. And I appreciate so sad.
That. Oh, it's terribly
so sad and so shocking.
I mean, you just have to watch the dash cam video of that night, and if it doesn't bring you to tears or close to it,
and made me have a lot of questions about why some people, why wasn't, if someone knew the house was on fire, why didn't they call the fire department immediately? Why did a neighbor call the owner of the house first?
Right. Well, she was a family member of him. But I'm like, that would have been my first question. And why didn't any of the neighbors standing around watching it burn run to their garage and get a ladder and put up to that window and get those girls out of there? I don't understand. It will never make sense to me.
I know.
It will never make sense to me. But I'm just like, there's just something's got to give. And I'm not happy with Carroll County because of it. It's just, I'm just not. I really do believe that they're trying to hide something with Flora, whether they screwed up royally and they're afraid of being sued, or they're, for the 4 deaths, for being culpable in it. I don't know.
Right.
There is a reason they don't want that 911 tape released.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it has to do with time. I think it has to do with the time of when things were called in, when things were happening, and when people arrived. And you know, for me, that's what makes it to me is they don't want that what's on that 911 tape because they don't want that timeline out there.
Right.
So
Makes
I don't know,
sense.
but
Makes sense.
it's kind of crazy. Well, lady, we've been here for a couple hours. Are you ready to say good night? Tomorrow's Easter. We got an early morning tomorrow.
Yeah. And I had an early morning and went to sleep really late last night. So I'm like, where are my vitamins?
I know I'm sitting here thinking to myself, what time was I woke up by my grandson this morning? It was awfully early.
Oh, I know. The little ones, my grandkids are up at the crack of dawn. My daughter was like that. My son would sleep till noon, but my daughter would be up with the chickens.
Yeah, it just seems like all of my kids were, I mean, my grandkids, my own kids, everybody, none of them ever slept in. But we had rules where they had to stay in their room until at least 8 o'clock in the morning. They couldn't just come out at 6 o'clock and wake the whole house up.
The only time we had
So
a rule like that was on Christmas with my son, because that's the only time he got up early. He would start getting up at 4 a.m. He's like, no, go back to bed. So
yeah, for sure. But no, I do wish everybody a really happy Easter. I hope everybody gets to enjoy some quality family time and you know, just try to remember why we are all here and do what we do here. I appreciate everybody who comes and listens and participates, and everyone who sends me donations or coffees or teas. I appreciate all of you so very much. It's really wonderful. I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be where I'm at here a year ago.
right. Well, you're really lucky. You're like, I go back to when I was a host on It's a Criming Shame, and I just felt like we had the most wonderful viewers, and they were so smart and kind, and you do too. You have a great group and never have any problems in your chat, and it's just really
Yep.
nice, and I appreciate coming on. And
Well, I love
you.
having you here. I appreciate you modding for me when you do. And that, you know, I was, like I said before, I was thrilled when you started your own channel because I think it's needed. And you're amazing. You have, like I said, you're very smart, you're kind, you're funny, and you have, and you have all the right things that it takes to do this, to bring factual based, you know, conversations to these cases. We all know that there's those out there that do some crazy stuff around these cases. Oh, yeah. You're not one of them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Appreciate that so much. And I am going to start doing lives. I just got a series of some things. Right before I started to do my first live, I gained 2 macular holes in my retina.
Oh no!
In my eye. And they're still not completely healed. I still have some issues with it. I go back Tuesday. And then of course we went on vacation. But I am going to do lives and soon. And when I do, I'd love to have you come on, and
I would love to do it.
Flora. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime, in any way I can help you, for sure. Because we gotta support one another out here, you know, and I feel I'm honest when I say this. I feel that if more creators would collaborate together in positive ways, we could get so much going than the fighting that goes on between collaborators. I'm just like, I'm so absolutely not into that arena. So
I am not either, and I will never have that on my channel. I don't want to talk about badly about other people. I don't care who they are.
Yep, me either. I'm
I don't
just
want
like, I don't want to go there. I'm not here to be the YouTube policeman. I'm not. I will call people out when they're being disrespectful in my chat, and if I feel they're being disrespectful to any of the victims' families,
Yeah.
I won't put up with any of that.
Yeah.
But other than that, as long as everyone's kind to one another, they're welcome.
Right.
So,
And
well, my
I feel
dear,
like everybody has some great ideas and something to contribute. I try to listen to and watch everybody that I can, because I get some of the most incredible thoughts, just from listening to everyone.
I agree.
You are so in depth, and I hang on to every second of when
You're so
when you're on it with a story, and I love that. And of course, I love Adam and Sunny. They're my I started with them, and they're my friends, and I love Sleuth and Tuition. I love the cadence of his show. It's just so cool, and I get intrigued and get a lot of ideas from listening to everybody. So,
well, like I said, we all have something to give, and we're all different. We all have, different personalities or whatever. But
right.
I'm also one that you need to listen to the other side. As long as they're being respectful, we can all learn, because not everybody's completely wrong. There's probably, truths in this and this theory or whatever, and we just have to, you know, be more open to that, I guess, and
right.
not be as negative. I always try to bring a positive vibe to my show and to my channel, because we're talking about such negative, horrific crimes, and it's really hard sometimes. I mean, I've cried on my channel. I'm an emotional person, and so sometimes it just gets to you, and you can't. You can't not do it. But my community that's here with me, they're all so supportive. So
yeah, absolutely. And it shows you've had tremendous growth. Tremendous growth here.
I appreciate them all. I honestly do. And like I said, I mean, I've had people ask me, well, what's the question, or how did you do it? Me, I'm just here. I just do what I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But I'm not, like I said, I'm just not here to get into the drama of the YouTube world.
Yeah.
And that's just me. So if people want to come and listen to other crime stories, because it's not just Delphi, I'm going to cover other stuff. And my other stuff doesn't get watched as much as my Delphi stuff does. But you know what? It's just, to me, it's just as important.
Right.
So
absolutely.
But anyway, guys, I'm going to say goodnight and thank Deb again for being here. She's wonderful. And everybody, please go check out her channel. Make sure you give her a subscribe and a thumbs up, because she's amazing. And I know a lot of you already know that. But for those watching on the replay that may not know who she is, it's at Deb's True Crime Notebook. And she's wonderful.
Thank you.
It's not an easy job. I know a lot of people think, oh man, hey, it's not easy doing this. It's just not.
No, and these stories break at the most inopportune times. Just one little quick thing, then I'll let you get out. When things broke with Kagan, pleading guilty, I was on an airplane getting ready to take off.
Is that coming or going back from Florida? Were you going?
I was going. I think I was going. Yeah, going. Putting the last finishing touches on a video, trying to get it to download and send before the plane took off. It's crazy. It's a crazy job.
No, it is crazy. Yeah, it is. And it's a lot. It's time consuming. It takes a lot of, if you're going to do it and do it right, and there's a lot of research and stuff that goes into it, and it's just not as easy as people think it might be. So
yeah.
But love you, dear. I hope you have a wonderful
friend.
I hope you have a wonderful Easter with your family.
You too. You too. Wonderful
Thank you.
holiday. Great meal.
I'm very much looking forward to it. So,
Me too.
I will talk to you later.
All right.
Thank you so much for being here.
See ya.
Bye. Bye, guys. You guys take care and have a good night. And I will see you guys all on Tuesday. Please be safe out there and always be kind, because it doesn't take much to be kind. Kindness is free. And in the world that we live in today, we need to be kind. Love to you all. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Thank you again.